Hey everyone, this is Jeannie, and today I'm sharing 2 cards using Ink on 3's new stamp set called Gerbera Daisies. This is one of 3 new sets that were released this week, and I really liked this one because it has all these details. Because these have so many details, I wanted to start off sharing a very simple card where there is no coloring whatsoever. Using my Misty and the one floral image from this stamp set, I created a frame all around my card panel. I pulled out Trinity Stamps A2 Foundation Rectangle Stencil. I went ahead and masked 2 of the florals that actually kind of show through the rectangle. And these stencils are so helpful because you don't have to mask off or cut up some masking tape to put all around the card. I find that these are super useful because I do like creating cards using different shapes as a focal point. This definitely is a focal point for this card. The focal point contains all the inked areas, and this is all the color that is on this card. So I went ahead and used Sweet Petunia Pink along with My Jam Purple to color up that area. And I went ahead and removed the stencil after I finished, and you definitely don't need to mask those florals. It just so happened that they kind of went into the rectangle and I decided to do so. I also decided that I will be trimming it down. I wanted to create a background that will be matted on top of the card. And so I went ahead and inked up the edges on a piece of A2 cardstock with the same pink and purple colors, and went ahead and took my card panel and matted it down. For the sentiments, I used the Stamp and Dies from the Heels to You stamp set. I just cut them out of white cardstock. I stamped the Your on a piece of white paper and cut that to a strip. When I add those sentiments, this card is done. It's super simple without any coloring, and it's a very easy card to put together. For my second card, it's a little bit more ink intensive, so I decided that I wanted to use all the leafy bits to create a background. So I stamped a bunch of them all over on a piece of Canson XL watercolor paper using Fadeout Ink. Fadeout Ink is a no-line coloring ink that does absorb the colors that you put on top of it. And so I did stamp each of the leaves about 2 to 3 times just so I could get them dark enough to my liking. I really wanted them to show up when I put ink over them. So I went ahead and used Goddess Green and Trinity Teal to ink up the background, and kind of like magic, you start to see the leaves in this tone-on-tone background. So I also went ahead and stamped out a couple of the flowers using Fadeout Ink on Canson XL watercolor paper again. And for the coloring of these florals, I am actually going to be doing ink blending. I am taking Twiggy Brown for the middle part of the flower, and for any leafy areas, I'm just going to use Goddess Green. For the flower petals itself, I'm using a mix of Bee Sting Yellow and Marigold Orange because the yellow is a little bright. It's hard to get dimension in the color yellow generally. You will always have to add a darker color like orange or brown to really get the dimension, and so that's what I did here. I added as much yellow as I thought was needed, and I went in with orange just to give the petals a bit of dimension and kind of more interest to it. As you can see, you can still see the lines for the florals. My original plan was just to ink blend these flowers. I really wanted to give it a little bit more dimension and detail. I decided for the florals that I would go in with the Copic markers just to help it out a little bit. And this was really easy, and it ended up being kind of a new technique. It's faux no-line coloring because that's what it ended up looking like. So for the middle portion of the flower, I actually just went in with 2 Copic markers and dotted the area so it looks almost like a sunflower, kind of. And there's just so many details that you really don't need to be precise with it, so that's what I did. I just used 2 brown Copic markers. For the flower petals itself, I went in with a golden yellow, which is Y17, and I outlined the petals. Then I went in with a golden yellow. It's almost like golden brown, and it's YR24. I really liked how this looked. I went in and outlined the same petals. It created the dimension, and you can see the different petals. I also wasn't super exact. I did this really quickly. This is why this video is pretty quick, because it's such a simple technique. Once I added that darker color, I went in again with the Y17 just to blend it out a little bit, just to give the lines a softer edge, and it really melded into the Bee Sting yellow. So it definitely looks like no line coloring, but way easier to do. So for the sentiment, I'm doing the exact same thing. I actually took the Bee Sting yellow and swiped it on a piece of cardstock. I am using that to go ahead and cut out the beautiful friend die cuts. I also stamped the UR on that yellow piece of paper. I cut it down to a strip. For the florals, I put 3 on bottom and 2 on top, and I popped up a couple on foam tape just to give it a bit of dimension. Adhering the sentiments, this card is complete. I really liked how this turned out. It is a little bit more intensive than the first one, but it's really pretty. So here are the 2 cards that I created today. One is really simple with just some ink blending, and the other one is a little bit more involved, but I love them both. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys next time with another one. Bye!